This is the Experience Podcast with just me again. Another solo episode. Scheduling continues to be a challenge, but I guess I have kind of a topic this week. Whenever I do these solo episodes, I'm like, oh, what do I talk about? And this just happens to be I'm recording on the day that the second part. I don't want to say second half, because of how they split it of Stranger Things season 4. They did the 2 volumes, but the first volume was 7 episodes, and the second one was 2 episodes. To be fair, though, the last episode, when I pulled it up on Netflix, it was like 2.5 hours. Jeez, watched it, so I watched it in chunks, and I'm fresh off of it. Well, I guess not that fresh. I did the dishes in between. Time to collect my thoughts. But of course, this will still be sort of a disaster recording. So yeah, we're gonna talk about just things in Stranger Things, and I hope we kind of get some engagement. We kind of joke all the time about like, hey, leave comments, but we really do want you to leave comments, and we want to know how the show's going and that sort of thing. So, I'll say this is this will be pretty spoiler heavy. I'm not gonna hold back or anything, just because I'm really just gonna say whatever I remember. So, yeah. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend getting on it. I know some people are like, I kind of dropped off Stranger Things. No, but it really does. I think it ties everything nicely together in this new season. Kind of reworking everything and um, I think it would bring people back if they kind of started to fall off after the second and third seasons that weren't as strong. I think I like those more than other people, but this season really does a good job, particularly the villain. It's not just more of the Demogorgon stuff. I mean, that's still included, obviously. That's part of the whole show. That's the whole point of the show. But they do a little more with it, and they explore different things. And so yeah, I'll get into it now. So I guess it's kind of the obvious thing here to get that out of the way is, these are all these people. I guess Winona Ryder and David Harbour already kind of had some fame, but all these kids now, they're older, they're doing other projects, they get busy. So it was kind of like, okay, because they split them up into 3 different groups. You had the Hawkins crew, which was Dustin. You got Lucas. Who else? Max, and then Nancy, Steve, Robin. Who else was there? Yeah, I guess that was it for everyone in the Hawkins crew. And then you had the California crew. Mike goes to visit Levin, who's already there with Will and Joyce, Winona Ryder's character, and I guess technically Murray's there. But then Joyce and Murray are gonna go be part of the Russian crew to go save Hopper, who mysteriously is alive after the last season. Seemed like he died, but they kind of start the season out by saying like, no, the Russians just pulled him right out, so he's in a Russian prison now. Um, so yeah, again, we have these 3 different plot lines. Again, probably because scheduling, you couldn't really get all of them together. I hope that changes next season, and then I guess I'll get to it later. I'm jumping around a bit, but the way they leave the end of this season kind of implies, all right, they're all going to be together next season, because that's kind of the best part of the show. Like at the end, okay, skipping to the end, but at the end of this season, of season 4, you finally get to see the kind of the groups come together. They all sort of get back to Hawkins, and those are some of the best moments. Like you're like, oh, I like seeing these characters together, but and I guess it does feel better when they finally get to be together at the end of this season. But it also kind of reminds you like, they could have just done this they could have done this the whole season. But that, again, I guess scheduling happens, and maybe it's hard to get all these characters in the same rooms, because really it's not until the last half hour or so that the groups start to mix. I mean, you get 11, who I guess could only shoot a scene with Max and Lucas, because that's because she goes into Max's mind, and in the pizza freezer. So yeah, I guess we'll jump into it. We'll talk about like the 3 different groups, like the 3 different plot lines that happen. So let's start out with Russia, because that was the one I was kind of like least interested in, especially at the beginning. It really started to grow on me as it kept going. Like, and I think I like the Murray character a lot more than other people do, because I think he's funny. I mean, I think he's good comic relief. Who is it, Brett Gelman? He's good comic relief, in contrast to Joyce, who's more anxious and concerned about getting to Hopper. Although she has some good comedic moments this season as well, but I think they play off each other very well, particularly in this season and in the past as well. But yeah, the early stuff with Hopper when he's basically before the first time that he escapes. So I don't remember exactly where that is. Maybe the first 2 or 3 episodes. I'm just like, all right, let's get. I mean, I didn't care, right? I didn't really care. I wasn't into it. And then he finally escapes on like that jet ski or whatever. Not jet ski, snow ski. No, what's the term? Uh, for yeah, I guess it would be. Anyway, um, what was I saying? Oh, so I finally was like, oh yeah, he's getting out of there. And then they gets recaptured. And I'm like, oh, gotta keep doing this. But then again, once he gets to, it almost looks like a new prison because the way they shoot it. But once he gets to like, all right, well, you're gonna be with this group, and I guess that's gonna uh, be bait or food for the Demodog that the Russians have, and then you starts to unravel. Oh, they have all these Demodogs and these Star Wars encapsulates, right? Um, and then once Joyce and Murray get there, and I like the guard. I don't remember the guard's name. Jeez, Anton Antonov, Dmitri. Look on Dmitri. Enzo. Yeah, Enzo. I thought he was I thought I liked him. I thought he played really well off of Hopper, and then Yuri, who he's just the worst, right? Yuri, just you can't trust him. You can't trust him to do anything. I don't know why when he's fixing the helicopter, and Dimitri and Murray are standing like 30 feet away from him. Like, yeah, you go fix it. Like, I would be watching him the whole time. You gotta know he's doing something. He's always backstabbing. So, Yuri, I thought was good. Maybe a little annoying at the beginning, but then again, as with the whole Russian storyline, it grew on me as the show went on. Although, in hindsight now, and maybe they'll tie it back together later, but it doesn't really seem to fit in with anything else. Like, oh yeah, the Russians are also doing some weird stuff with demodogs and whatever. That's it. It doesn't tie in with the main villain, who we'll get to in a minute. Um, so it's kind of like, well, why do I care? What's the point of that whole uh, sort of storyline other than to give Joyce, Murray, and Hopper something to do, right? For that part of the season. So again, maybe they'll tie it back together with Russia in the next season, and a lot of, again, especially the way they leave this season off at the end, it kind of it's leading into the next season, and it's all um, and we're in spoilers, but the villain lives on. He doesn't die. So unlike the previous seasons, I guess, or well, I guess the Mind Flayer uh, didn't really die. I forget. But anyway, it looks like we're gonna keep the same villain for next season, which is kind of cool. There's some continuity, and it makes it feel a little more epic and bigger in scale. Although this series does not fall short of scale. I will say that. All right, so let's go on to California Crew. I'm going like in reverse order of impact in the show, I guess. So, or I guess meatiness in the plot line, because the Hawkins Crew has a lot to talk about. We'll get to that at the end. But we're going to go on to California Crew, which is Mike, who's coming in from Hawkins to visit Eleven, and Nancy didn't come for Jonathan, and Jonathan didn't go over to Nancy, and there's some bickering there, and I'm not sure that the series really heavily implies this season that they're probably not meant to be together, and that Steve and Nancy work really well. So this season kind of leaves it where they're still together, but I wouldn't be surprised if next season they sort of they split off and Nancy, finds her way to Steve. But this little love triangle is honestly one of the uh, sort of least interesting romantic stories in this series for me. I'm, just in terms of compared to the other ones, and even Joyce and Hopper are more interesting, and some others that I'll get to later. But Mike is using 11, and I think that dynamic works really well. Mike is, he's shy about sharing his feelings, makes sense at that age, and a lot of things are changing and that sort of stuff, and then they've been through a lot, obviously. So Will feels left out. They there's so many moments in this season that he's, and this is kind of a popular internet rumor that Will is gay, or at least somewhere on the queer spectrum. And there's it kind of comes out to his brother at the end there. I mean, not really. His brother basically goes like, hey, if you can tell me anything, I'll always love you the way you are. You can tell me whatever, and we'll just, cries and hugs his brother. And I'm like, yeah, they're so close. they're so close to admitting. And I'm on the internets. The internet's here, and there's already articles out about Will Byers' sexuality. Because again, the creators have always been very coy about it. They're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but it's not that big of a deal. It's more just I was almost like laughing in that moment. I was like, are they gonna do it? They're gonna do it. And Will kind of comes out to Mike in the back of the van earlier. I think, in the second to last episode. So anyway, yeah, there's Will's there, and he's feels a little third wheelie with 11 and Mike, and and 11 really struggling in the first part of the season. I mean, heavy bullying. I didn't really, I think. Well, I was gonna say bullying has gotten better. Like, we've gotten better about bullying. I don't even know. Maybe not. Maybe we haven't. I don't want to minimize anyone's experience with bullying, but it's brutal in this show. I mean, she gets. I forget the girl's name. I don't know if I'll be able to find it now. I got the cast list up. Just for reference here. I have the cast list up, but there's like 50 names on here, and I'm trying to remember. Is it Susie? No, that can't be it. Anyway, so yeah, she's getting bullied at school, and it's tough on her, and Mike's trying to help her, but eventually she smacks. She does the roller skate smack on the bully girl whose name again escapes me. Maybe I can find it here. But anyway, maybe no. So, eventually 11 finds Dr. Owens, who's still alive, still in the show. Paul Reiser, he comes back and he says, "Yes, I'm still in this show. You remember me from the previous couple seasons. I'm, the good cop to Brenner's bad cop, and Papa, Dr. Brenner, he's back as well." And they're like, "Hey, we want to help you with your powers. We're going to bring them back. So we're going to take you, and we're going to leave the rest of these guys, Mike, Will, and Jonathan. They're going to be in good care. They're going to have these guards, and these guys, they're a little buffoonish. They get shot up. I mean, I get that there are only two of them, but I mean, they try. They really work hard, and they sort of leave him. They say Nina, and they lead them back to 11 as the government. What is it? Lieutenant Colonel Jack Sullivan, who thinks that 11 is responsible for all this stuff. And again, we'll get to who's responsible when I get to the 11 part. But he thinks that 11's responsible, and so he's basically trying to kill her. He's like, "Oh, if we kill her, all these random, mysterious deaths in the Hawkins area will stop." But as we know, as watchers of the show, we know that that's not true, and that 11 is actually gonna help save them. So yeah, so 11 goes, and this is the part. So this is kind of a spin-off of the California crew, right? And this is the part where again, similar to the Russian part in the storyline in the early episodes of the season, I was really not digging the 11 flashback stuff. I mean, I thought I was like, oh, all right, we're going back to this. That was kind of a check your phone moment for me while I was watching. I didn't check my phone that much, but you get what I'm saying. I was like, I'm not interested. Like, all right, she's doing this. She's in the lab, or she's in the rainbow room, whatever. Oh, she's got a guy there, and he looks kind of sketchy. He's probably the villain. I don't know, but Henry, who was revealed, is number one, the first. What do you call him? Patient of Brenner's. So Brenner finds him, and Jamie Campbell Bower, great job. Very, and he plays Vecna, who we identify as like the guy who's behind everything, right? He's responsible for all the stuff in the Upside Down because 11 sent him to the Upside Down, basically banished him after he killed everyone else in the lab, right? Or I don't know what do you call it? I get the lab in the lab that 11 was staying at. Much younger, I forget how long ago that was, but yeah. So 11's like, oh no, he's back, but we find out he's responsible for he controlled the Mind Flayer in the last season. He did all the Demodogs from season 1 and season 2. He's done all of it. He's trying to kind of claw his way back to the real world, and then we see at the end of this season he finally breaks free. Oh, there's people walking down the stairs. Uh, anyway, so he's the villain, and I once they kind of tie that in at the end of the 7th episode, where we really start to see what happened, that's where it's like the payoff. Basically, I didn't love the journey in the 11 flashback stuff, but the payoff was worth it, and I think good reveal and good I think good character building, and we really do see 11 struggle to fight him toward the end of the season. So that's kind of the 11, and Brenner, terrible guy. he keeps saying no, it's to help you, but then he keeps like drugging her, and he puts a collar on her to dampen her powers. I mean, he keeps saying no, it's all best for you. But if you have to keep saying that, you're probably not doing the best thing for someone. If you have to keep and reinforcing it, like no, trust me, this is helpful. It probably isn't. And 11 basically sees him. When he gets shot by the military. He finally. We assume he dies, but we thought he died back in season 1. So they could always bring him back somehow. But he basically says, 11. Just please understand. Just understand that I was always trying to do best for you. And she just stares at him silently, and she's like, goodbye, you're done. Because she finally has moved past the Papa thing, and she realizes, she looks back at the Mike and Will and Jonathan and the gang, and we'll get to them in a minute. But he just looks back at him, at them, and Mike especially, and she says, you know what? These are the guys that are actually trying to do things, or they're actually trying to do what's best for me. And so she gives up on good old Papa, Dr. Brenner. So, but Matthew Modine, again, great. He does a great job in this season. I think maybe controversial, but the stoner friend, I was okay with it. I thought he did a good job. I'm trying to pull up his name. I think this is it. Yep, Eduardo Franco. I don't know. But he does great. He's popped up on a couple of things. He was on American Vandal, Booksmarts. Those are. He knows how to get to good properties. But yeah. So I thought I think a lot of people were a little annoyed by him. I thought he was perfect for the show. It was the perfect segue given the '80s timeline. He's the stoner guy. He's the so I thought he did a great job, kind of as a foil to Jonathan. And you know what? He helps save the day. He finds the pizza restaurant. So he's a big part of the show. So that's that, and I think that covers the California crew. I don't really have much else to say about Mike, Will, and Jonathan. They spend the whole season just trying to find 11. I mean, although I will say that the shootout scene at the house was really well done. I think it's been about a month since I saw the first half of the season, but I think that was they had was it a one shot? It might have been. But I think that was filmed really well, and the tenseness of it was really well done. All right, so let's get to kind of the meat of it. And oh boy, we're already running at 20 minutes now, so we're actually doing well on time. I didn't know. I thought this would be like a 5 minute thing. I would run out of things to say, but there's a lot in this show, right? It's only 9 episodes, but when each episode's like an hour and a half long, right? And that might be like the minimum. Some of these episodes are close to 2, and then the last episode 2.5 hours. I mean, so basically the second to last episode, the penultimate episode, was an hour and a half, and the last episode was 2.5 hours, right? So we're talking 4 hours for the final 2 episodes of this series. And I mentioned like it was weird that they did a 7-2 split for the volumes, but when the second volume is 4 hours, I mean that's some full season length. That's a full season for some shows, and this show is like, yeah, it was just 2 episodes, so that's whatever. And watching it, I'm like, I don't know what else. I mean, maybe there's a couple things you could cut, but there's not much you could cut. So, yeah, they packed it in. Again, they had the fluff, the Russian stuff, but I guess it did help. It helped weaken Vecna. So anyway, we get to Vecna. We mentioned Vecna and what he's doing in Hawkins. He's finding, he's finding people who are having some mental health issues, who have trauma that they're dealing with in Hawkins, and he kills them. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why that's who he's targeting, is these teenagers with trauma. I guess because he had a lot of trauma, but I don't know why it has to be teenagers. Anyway, he's targeting them, and he's already gotten a couple. We start out with Chrissy, who's struggling, and she goes to Eddie for relaxation, let's call it, for things to relax her mind. And then she's kind of the first victim. Eddie freaks out, and he gets blamed. And Eddie, who is kind of the new character, Joseph Quinn, I thought he did a good job. I thought he was pretty good. I didn't know. Again, a lot of people were kind of uneasy about him, but he really you really come around to him as the show progresses. We're keeping politics out of it, but as he progresses, or as the show progresses, I think he does a really good job of really growing on you, and kind of he finds himself. He's the new guy this season, right? It was kind of Robin last season, and now it's Eddie. And he's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? And he's basically the audience for us. And you get people like Dustin and Nancy. Well, maybe not Nancy, like Dustin and Steve and Robin, who are like, no. Here's what happens. We got a superhero friend, and there's these things called Demodogs, and there's the Upside Down, and he's like, whoa, like all this stuff. He's just like a Dungeons and Dragons guy. And I did like how they kind of the Hellfire Club, they kind of play into the satanic panic that happened in the 80s, and how people were afraid, and they think it's a cult, and it's like, no, we're just playing games. Like we're literally just playing. We're just a group that plays games, but they think it's this cult that's causing these people to mysteriously die, and again we know it's now Vecna. Let's see, I have a couple notes that I wrote down here that I wanted to hit, and I'm remembering that. Yeah, here we go. I talked about that. Nancy. So I just wrote down Nancy, but I actually thought she did a good job. I liked her. Again, the love triangle thing, I could take it or leave it, but Nancy, really, really strong character this season. I think she really comes into her own. I mean, she does a really good job the past few seasons, but this season she's like, she doesn't need Jonathan, she doesn't need Steve. Although she does, again, she kind of there's some sparks between her and Steve, but I think she really displays her independence well this season. Um, so I mentioned Murray, my other favorite character from this season. Although I liked Max, and we'll get to Max later. But Erica Sinclair, who was in a couple episodes last season, and maybe even like one in season two. She's in a couple, but she's a star in this season. She's great. We need more of her. The sort of the bickering between Lucas and her is great. And she's a big deal. She beats up one of the basketball guys at the end. Like give credit to Erica. She's great. We need more Erica. Just put her in do an Erica spinoff. Right? If we could have an Erica spinoff, that'd be great. Where it's just Erica going to school. No, I don't know. Well, maybe, but anyway, Erica Sinclair, great. And then Lucas, who in this season, he starts out, he's a basketball player. Maybe, he's got the athleticism. He doesn't really even play until the championship game. But he's part of the team, and he wants to kind of distance himself from the Dungeons and Dragons crew. He still does it, kind of behind their back, behind the basketball team's back, but he kind of wants to distance himself. He wants to be, a popular guy. He's kind of sick of the whole nerd stuff and all that. But once he starts to realize this basketball crew, they're they're a little nuts, because you end up with what's his name? Lead basketball guy. He dies though. That's crazy. I was surprised they killed him off. I am trying to find his name. Jason. There we go. So Jason arrives at the house and he beats up Lucas, and then he eventually dies from one of the cracks, from the fissure that goes to the Upside Down. I was surprised they killed him off, but he, this guy, not level-headed. He gets emotional. He's like, no. Chrissy would never do the drugs and do all this other stuff. I said it. But sometimes we don't know everyone the way we think we do, and sometimes people are struggling and they're afraid to talk to people about it, even the people they care about the most. And so Jason just goes way off the rails, and the whole basketball crew just the worst, maybe even worse than Vecna, because they're constantly sabotaging everything that they're trying to do. This whole, they get that, that's the point, right? They execute, the show did a good job of doing this. It's just, they really do a good job of making you annoyed by the basketball team. And Lucas even figures this out. He's like, nah, I'm out of here. I'm not doing any of this nonsense, because they're going around beating up people. He was prepared to kill Lucas. He had a gun to his head. Because of all the, again, kind of tying back to that satanic panic, he's thinking that Eddie is leading this cult and they're doing these weird things and rituals and whatever, and because I guess the Upside Down really hasn't been sort of publicized until really now. Now, again, as the way the season leaves off, we're bringing the Upside Down to the real world. The worlds are going to collide and people are going to really see what's really going on underneath Hawkins. So yeah, again, Dustin always great. I'll just mention the characters. Dustin always great, still great. A little dialed back compared to last season. I think it makes sense. He's maturing. Really, his friendship with Eddie and even Steve still great. Are you talking about Nancy? She's great. Robin, I liked her kind of coming into her own. She gets a little more character development. She likes this girl from band, and who knows what's going on. And always cheer on a marching band mention. So, Robin, again, great job, and she's always great with Steve. That chemistry is always great. And again, we can get a whole spin-off of that, just Steve and Robin. Who else is on the Hawkins crew? That, and then we talked about the basketball stuff. So let's get to Max. So Max, dealing with the Billy trauma. Billy died in the past season, in the previous season, I should say. And she's still she's still struggling through it. And I liked that they carried that over. It makes sense that she would still be struggling. She kind of She's distanced herself from Lucas, who I guess they've broken up. I don't know if they say explicitly, but yeah, they've broken up uh, since the previous season. Again, as Lucas has moved on to his basketball stuff, and Max has kind of distanced herself from everyone. But I liked how Lucas, and even Max, they're still fight. They do want to be together. They're struggling with their own sort of things. Um, and as Lucas kind of figures out that Max is in trouble, he leaves the basketball crew. He wants to help her, and they do the first. When is it? Which episode is it? Dear Billy, chapter 4. Maybe even the best episode. That's the famous Running Up That Hill episode, right? Where we made a random song from 1985 become it's back, right? It's now all atop all the charts. People love this song. I mean, it's a fine song, but uh, this is the episode where Max first uh, becomes susceptible to Vecna. She gets out of it because of the song, and then that's when the Hawkins crew realizes music helps tether you to the real world and that sort of stuff. So that's that. Max again, great development. I like how she carries the emotional elements. I mean, 11 does in certain aspects as well, but and even Hopper, but Max does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the emotional aspects of this season, and you really feel for her struggles and stuff with her brother Billy and her relationship with Lucas and everything else that she's going through as she gets older uh, and then then she gets off scot-free. They put her on headphones for the rest of the season, and then she comes back in the last episode, or I guess the last two episodes. She's like, "Look, guys, this is the only way to beat them is beat Vecna. Is make me the bait. I'll keep them distracted. That way, you guys can kill him, and we get this big final battle in the final episode. Special effects I haven't touched on yet, but they're still great. I mean, they probably put like billions of dollars in every episode, but still, it shows like it's good. It's Game of Thrones-esque where they're putting a lot of money, but it does show up, and the budget does show in the special effects and the visuals and everything you see. Especially the main villain Vecna. I think I don't know how much of that is like prosthetics and how much of that is special effects, but I think that he looks great. They do a good job there. But anyway, Max, who saved by the bell by 11 in the gym, or at the dance, which Max is trying to escape Vecna. 11 saves her. But then Mike has a 30-minute speech. Mike, if you could cut that speech down, 11 would be able to jolt back in and save Max before it's too late. But it ends up. I'm kidding, Mike. No, that was actually a good moment too. I liked him, really reinforcing his passion for 11, which was good. And then 11 saves. She thinks she saves Max, but it's too late. Max was dead for, I think they say like 10 seconds. Her heart was stopped for, or whatever it was. Maybe 10 minutes was it? I don't remember. And then 11, I guess her new power is she can bring people back to life. I don't know, because Max is now stuck in a coma, and she's got, all her limbs were broken. So, but those will heal. But we're really concerned is she ever going to wake from her coma? Lucas is by her bedside. Erica still there, still great. She's like, I'm still in this. I'm still in the show. Like, yeah, we got it. Doing great, Erica. But so Max is back from the Upside Down and from her experience with Vecna. Will she survive? I assume they're not going to kill Max off, will they? I'd be very upset because I do like her as a character and what they did with her this season. I think it would be very upsetting to a lot of fans if she did not make it to the end. If they start next season where it's like, oh, it's Max's funeral. I think that'd be a little upsetting. So you assume she'll be back, and I don't want them to do a thing where next season she's in the hospital the whole season. Maybe the actress can't isn't able to film. That's very possible. But Sadie Sink. She's done a few things. She's 20 years old. That's crazy. So maybe she doesn't have time to film or whatever. But I hope that she's fully back in the next season, because I enjoy seeing her with the rest of the cast, with the rest of the Hawkins crew. And again, as I said earlier, maybe now they'll all be together. You get to see her, because she really, I think, excelled last season with 11, and I guess in some aspects season 2, a little bit of season 2, but a lot of stuff in season 3 where I think she really excelled with 11 in season 3. Their friendship, I think, was really nice, and they highlight that in this season. They do a lot of, especially the last episode, they do a lot of flashbacks to previous. Like, remember how great we were earlier? How great it was, how great the show was previous seasons, which is part of the storyline. It fits the storyline, but I thought it was a little funny. So yeah, oh yeah, I do remember that was so great earlier. But yeah, I think that's it. That's all I really have to say. Let me check my 3-word notes here. I covered everything that's on my thing. I'm excited for where the show's going to go. It looks like, again, that we've opened the portal to the Upside Down. We've got full Upside Down. I don't know how they're going to weave in the military here, or Dr. Owen stuff. Presumably he's still alive. We don't see him die. We see Matthew Modine, Papa, Dr. Brenner dies, but I don't know if Owens will be back. Hopper's back from Russia, so we might be done with that, or maybe Russia will tie in somehow. I don't know how they would do that, but maybe Russia, maybe there's another fissure in Russia. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Max. We got more of that, Steve, Jonathan tension at the end. They kind of tease that. So Nancy's got a decision to make there. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope we don't lose Murray, because Russia plot is done. But Murray's again great. Murray, Joyce, and Hopper. That could be a spin. It was a spin-off, because that's what their plot was the whole season. But yeah, that's all I got. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What did I miss that I should have talked about, that I forgot about? I guess it's probably a lot. Again, they're long episodes, really, and there's not a lot to really take out, because there's a lot of great character building and character. And again, I got the cast list here, and it's probably over. It might be over 50. I'm not going to count it, because no one wants that content of me sitting here counting something. But I guess we've done similar stuff on this show before. But let me know if you want me to talk about anything else. I could talk about The Boys next week. I think that only's done season 3, and this might be one of the best seasons of that show. I think Nathaniel has talked about that on here. He was kind of wishy-washy on it, but I think season 3 might be better than the previous ones. So maybe we'll. Yep. So next week is the season finale. So I could talk about that next week if I can't find a guest. That might be the backup plan. And talk about the allegories in that show. There's a really good one in this week's episode. But anyway, that's Stranger Things. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know how to end this, so we're just gonna end it here.